Hey, it's Jill from the Smiling Goat. We're here to do a sign. Every home needs a stable foundation. And I'm wondering if yours is it backwards. From what I'm looking at, it looks backwards, but what can you do? So this, I did mine very distressed. And I'm going to show you today how to layer vinyl to stencils to make this. And then how to distress it. Just in the way we're doing it, it's going to distress a little bit. It might pull off a little paint here and there. I'll show you how to avoid that if you don't want it distressed, but I like mine a little bit rustic for my house. I'm going to show you everything you get in the kit, but this is what the finished product is going to look like. You see that? There's a white star there. There's a yellow star here. I think today I'm going to do mine white. I think I should have done that, but the yellow's fine. I made this one the focal point, so you decide what you want to do. But this is what it's going to look like. These are your supplies that you're getting in your kit. You are getting, of course, the wood background. On the back is it's got strips across. You can either put a hanger on this, you can just put nails in the wall and then lay that over the nails to hang it, and of course you can just prop it somewhere too. But that's the back side. It would make a pretty sign if you wanted to do something on the back that's not so seasonal, or maybe a different holiday, and so you'd have that with something on it, and then you can flip it over and have what we're making today. So that's a good idea too. That way you don't have to store it for so long. I hate having all this stuff in storage and then get it out for a little while and then have to store it. So you can make it a little bit more versatile if you want to. All right, so besides the background, you are getting paint. Depending on how many you order is how much paint you're getting. I've got the background color. I've got my glasses on, so I can't read. It's gonna say background on it. It's taped shut for you so that it doesn't spill as you're traveling home. But that's the background color. You also have, sticking to the tablecloth, you have, what does it say? It says home stable foundation. So you know when you get your, Lordy Lou, when you get these out, home stable foundation, that's your stencil. So it says on there what they are. So you're getting all the colors of paint you need, and they are labeled on there, so you know exactly where it goes if you shut off the video and don't watch me. Okay, so you're also getting several vinyl sheets that are, here we go, 4 of them. They're all layered on. So here's the order if you don't want to follow the video. Paint the background. All right, let it dry. Number 2 is the stable. We'll put the stable down, stencil that on, let it dry, peel it off. Number 3, home stable foundation. You'll notice there are 2 stars right there. I think I missed that one on my first one. Don't do that star if you don't want to. It's going to be kind of a weird spot. Or do it. Either way, I'll do it today and you'll see. There's also hair stuck. Hopefully there's none on yours. That will go over the top there after you've peeled that off. This star here is a lineup sheet for the next layer. So did you hear that? So to get these lined up just right, because you can't see through the vinyl, you'll place this star under the E and every right over that star there, and you'll be able to see it through, and you'll line it up absolutely perfectly. So that's what that's there for. And then you have one more star that you put wherever you want. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, I'm going to paint the background. Oh, other things. I'm going to paint the background with my sponge brush or my chip brush. I'm not going to do a great job. I'm going to do mine rustic. If you don't want it rustic, you do a good job. You've got plenty of paint. I do recommend going thin and then doing a second coat if you need it. I would not glop this on. You will not be happy with the way your stencils turn out if you have thick paint. You want it thin, and then thin again. As many layers as you want, thin, and make sure they are super dry in between coats. I've got my hairdryer out so I can go fast. You also have two different types of sponges. You have these little sponges, makeup sponges to do the stenciling with. Don't use this to stencil. Yours might be a different color. We're going to use that to wet distress. We'll do that at the end. Put that away. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I'm going to paint my background color with my blue. Thin, long, thin coats. Don't do this little short thing. Oh, you can't see that. Little short thing. You don't need to do that. You want long coats. You want it thin. There's no gloppy. There's no thick spots. You accidentally get a thick spot, you see that really thick paint there? Don't have that. Spread that puppy out. Get it nice and thin. Okay, if you want better coverage, you let this thin coat dry. And you come back after it's dry and give it a second coat. But don't make it thick right now. You'll hate yourself in the morning. Okay, I'm turning you off. You all paint. When you're done and it's dry and the background's the way you want it to look, come back to me. Okay, mine's painted and dry. So, if you feel coolness at all, you might peel up some paint with your stencil. I feel a little coolness right there. Here, I don't. It feels just room temperature. So here, I'm very confident I'm not going to peel up paint with my stencil. Here, I'm not so certain because it's a little cool. You can hit it with a hairdryer, dryer it more if you want to. I am going to risk pulling up some paint to give me more rustic look. So I'm okay with that. I don't want it wet where my stencil won't stick. But this coolness means it's not super duper dry. So judge it on your own merit. You know, you feel it. If you get some on your hand, that was from earlier. If you get some on your hand, you know you're not ready. If you feel coolness and you don't want to pull up paint, you're not ready. But I'm going to be ready. So here's what your stencils are looking like. This checkered top, yours may be clear. It's just the transfer tape. Your stencil is the white. The blue is the backing paper. We got to get rid of that backing paper. So make sure it's pressed down really well and then pull off the backing paper. It's much easier to lay it flat and pull the backing paper off than it is to pull the stencil away from the backing. So that's trash. Okay, so you place this pretty well flush with the bottom of your board. I want my boards to be going up and down, and then that way I can judge the middle of my stable right down that dividing line between those two middle boards. So I don't look like I'm too off. That's the first. Okay, press it down. Press it down hard. Really let that stick. And then do not lift up the transfer tape. You want to roll it off. Look at that. It's not rolling off well. Did I make it stick? No, because this was cool. It was cool and a little bit damp. So I was risking it. So I'm going to have to work harder. Make sure the white sticks to your painted surface. If it starts to come up like that, rub it down. You may have to hold it. But if I lifted this straight up, I'm going to be pulling up this, and it's going to be a lot of work. By rolling it off flush with the boards, I'm not having as much trouble. There's going to be a little trouble, but as much trouble. Oh, look at that. It's pulling up. You see that? Push it back down. Start again. I'm not having as much trouble. Little trouble. Okay. Really press that down. This is trash. Well, actually, if you have other vinyl, if you want to keep this and put it back on this blue thing, stick her down, you can use it for something else. You can reuse it if you have a need for it. So now it's trash. Okay. So my stable is gray. You have a little thing of gray somewhere. When you are stenciling, you are barely dipping in paint. Barely. See, that's way too much paint. You see that? That's going to run underneath all my ridges. I'm going to have a very feathered stencil. Can't have that. Take it off. Take it all off. It's like there's nothing there hardly. Where's my video? See, there's very little. I could even have more of that off. Very little. And you could even tap a little bit off over here on your excess vinyl stencil. But I am going to barely tap. Barely. If I press hard, I'm going to press what little paint I have underneath that stencil. So I'm just going to barely tap. Barely. Just lightly until I get my coverage I want. With this gray, you get pretty good coverage, but if you feel like you need a second coat, do the whole thing. Then once it's dry, give it a second coat. I'm going for that rustic look. I want to see through mine a little bit. So I am not going to do the second coat. I'm going to do the first coat, and then I'll be right back. You all stencil. Very little paint, little bitty taps. Okay, here I am. I'm ready. This is what it looks like. It's not quite dry. I'm going to pull it off anyway. That's one coat, barely light taps. Even with those super light taps and very little paint, you may get some bleeding underneath. This is the nature of the animal here. I said low battery. I hope I had to make it. Okay, so I'm using a knife. You can use even the point of a paring knife or something to get all this extra vinyl off. But in between all of these stencils, you are going to pull off the vinyl. Don't stencil over your existing vinyl underneath. Each one gets its own glory here. So, well, I was going to pull up some paint. It didn't pull up any paint. It did a good job. Piece there. Okay. Stencil number 2. Or stencil number 1. I got all my oh, I'm missing under his foot, a little bitty piece. All right, there we go. Stencil number 1. Stencil number 2 is Home Stable Foundation. Same deal with that. This time, pull off the backing. If it cooperates. This time, you're going to have to stand up and kind of look through it. I like to line up the tops of like my T and my N with this line on the stable to get that. You can also kind of take it and judge in half. At the middle is between the O and the M, so you can line that up too. So foundation is going to be right above Joseph's head, right above it. Between the O and the M is the middle point if you're lining it up. That looks good. And then put it down. So, I don't know. The top of the N, the D, the A, and the T are lined up with the top of that bar on the stable. Between the O and the M is lined up between that crease right there. Okay, I'm going to take this off. It's going to be yellow, all except for this star. I'm going to do my stars white this time instead of yellow. Woo. Okay, so here we're back. I'm going to take this next stencil off. I did the yellow. I'm about to run out of battery, so I'm going too fast, and I apologize. Look, I got white all over the place. You won't notice. You won't see that through there. But here's this star, and I've got my star on my board. I am going to line that up through my vinyl before I press her down. And that way I know I have my every and needs a in the exact same place it's supposed to be, the exact right spot. So then I'm going to take that off, and it's going to go in the green color, and it's going to be next. And I do hope you're waiting for paint to dry in between. Have out a hairdryer if you need it. These little pieces like this, really, between the E and the R, all these little things are gorgeous. Makes a beautiful font. But you have to pay for that, puppy. You have to work hard. All right, this one's gonna be green. I'll be back with you in a minute. Enjoy. Okay, so I've got that on now, and it lined up beautifully. I've got everything like I need except for my star stencil, and you can decide where you want that. If you want it right in the middle, you put it right in the middle. The first one I did it off to the side, but this is up to you. I'm going to see what this one looks like up right in the middle. I lined it up with the that seam again. So I'm going to do it white, and then I'm going to let everything dry, and I will show you how to wet distress. Do it the same day though. Don't put this off. If you want it distressed and not having to use sandpaper, you need to not let it dry overnight and cure too much. So I'm going to finish up all my stenciling, and the last step will be that wet distressing. Okay, it's all there. I did mine up there. I like it. I like it a lot. So you have a sponge, a household kitchen sponge. You need to go wet that and get all the extra water out of it. And wet distressing is going to be washing away some paint. And depending on how much it's dried, how much you're going to get off. And you're just, I don't know if you could see that. I've scrubbed off just a little to distress it. Let's take some elbow grease. Back and forth. You could choose to go get you some sandpaper if you want to. It depends on how much distressing you want to do with it. Ouch. But I'm just wiping away a little bit of that extra paint. Going around the edges. But it's perfect the way it is. Get rid of as much or as little as you want. If you want more, take just a little piece of sandpaper. If you have a palm sander, you can sand the edges a little. It's fine the way it is. All of that's up to you, what you do to it from now on. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a beautiful craft and that you had fun with your group. I appreciate you buying this from me. It does me good to think of what you guys all out there having fun and making these things together that I've put together for you in your own homes with the kids running around, or just wherever. Maybe you're at church and you're getting together, eating, having a good time. So I'm going to just keep rubbing, get mine off a little bit more, but thank you.